Boruto is back, and he is someone Code should be very afraid of. We've only gotten a brief look at his abilities so far, but he's unleashed hell on the claw grind. He's far deadlier than the kid who left Konoha 3 years ago. But what exactly did he learn? What abilities does he have to play with? Well, let's start with the one ability we've seen Boruto both use and name, the Rasengan Uzuhiko. There's been some debate among fans about how best to translate that. The more hyped up version is calling it the Universal Rasengan. It's easy to see the appeal of that, a Rasengan with all the strength of the universe. If Boruto is just about power escalation, that would make sense. It would just be a stronger Rasengan, like a new Super Saiyan form in Dragon Ball. But look at Boruto activating the jutsu. He's not forming any kind of regular Rasengan at all. You can see tendrils of wind moving around him, but there's no sphere focused on his hands. It's something different to a regular Rasengan. It's not as simple as just another attack. Boruto is a lot more creative than that, and that's where we get into the other main translation. The most prominent alternate reading of Uzuhiko would be Spiral Boy or Boy in the Spiral. That meaning has some weight to it given Naruto's history. The Uzumaki clan has always been associated with that spiral emblem. Even though Minato was the one who developed the Rasengan, he did it out of love for Kushina, and she gave the technique its name. You can't separate the Rasengan from the Uzumaki family. Even now, with most of the world no longer believing he's Naruto's kid, Boruto still has that clan emblem close to his heart thanks to that iron pendant he's wearing. A new version of the Rasengan that calls back to the spiral makes sense. And this translation backs up the most likely idea of how Uzuhiko works. Instead of forming a simple, regular Rasengan in his hands, Boruto has formed one around his entire body. While he hasn't brought his hands together, he made sure to sheath his sword before activating the Uzuhiko, keeping them free for this. He's standing in the middle of a whirlwind. What does that mean for him in a fight? Well, it's probably not a straight-up attack. More likely, it's a mobility aid. By maintaining the vortex, Boruto may be able to use the winds to move himself, dodging more quickly than regular shinobi, or pushing back attacks with a gust of wind. Already though, there's a potential flaw with this new technique. Assuming the Uzuhiko still basically has the same requirements as a regular Rasengan, Boruto will likely have to keep his hands free in order to keep it going, continually kneading chakra into the familiar Rasengan spiral. He might not even be able to use his hands at all while this technique is active, or risk it falling apart immediately. If an enemy wants to try and disrupt the Uzuhiko, the hands are likely a pretty extreme weak spot. Still, the things you might be able to do with it could outweigh the downsides. If Boruto can move his body with the force of a Rasengan, imagine what some taijutsu could do with the power of the whirlwind backing it up. Even if his hands are locked off while using it, switching up to a spiraling drill kick shouldn't be too much of a problem. This is a technique with a lot of potential, and it's a variant of ninjutsu that we've seen before. If the Uzuhiko really is a full-body Rasengan, then it's basically a new version of the Chidori Nagashi, a full-body ninjutsu that takes the regular version of the technique and envelops you in it. The Chidori was originally developed as a version of the Rasengan when Kakashi failed to apply his lightning chakra to the original. The two techniques are similar enough that it makes sense to try and take jutsu that expand on the Chidori and use them for the Rasengan. Now, on his own, that would still be hard for Boruto to work out. He's had no practice with using the Chidori and no knowledge of the Chidori Nagashi. It's unlikely that he would create his own version of it without help. But Boruto did not run away from Konoha that day on his own. He had a teacher, one he knows extremely well. If we want to work out what he knows now, what new jutsu he could have picked up over the last 3 years, we should probably start there. Boruto could not have asked for a better mentor. Sasuke was known as a prodigy in ninjutsu use even as a kid, developing his fire style ninjutsu before he even became a genin. He's mastered an extremely wide variety of techniques, and with him and Boruto on the run, they don't have much else to do other than train and run away. Pretty much any jutsu Sasuke had that didn't rely on his eyes, he could pass on to Boruto. Boruto's natural affinity for lightning release should be helpful here. Moves like the Chidori should be strong possibilities for teaching, but the real advantage to studying with Sasuke is just how much variety he can bring. We've seen that since the original series, he's learned medical ninjutsu, enough to heal Sakura when he needed to. More than any one technique, Sasuke should be able to teach a whole range of ninjutsu, allowing his students to get creative with lesser known abilities. We should also highlight the SUSANOO, mostly because Boruto probably can unlock it. While it's one of Sasuke's strongest combat techniques, and one that would be really useful for a rogue shinobi who has to take on the world, it's supposed to require the activation of the Mangekyo Sharingan specifically. While Sasuke might be able to instruct Sarada in using it, Boruto is likely out of luck. That said, there is one way he might manage to get around this restriction. We'll get into that later. It's clear Boruto has taken the time to train in Kenjutsu, judging by just how easily he's handled the claw grime during Code's attack on Konoha. Sasuke's been using a sword ever since his training with Orochimaru, so he was probably able to give his new students some pointers. Naruto never really bothered with much besides the standard ninja tools, but his son can probably combine his jutsu and blade just like Sasuke can. Could we end up seeing a Rasengan sword, a blade strike with the familiar vortex surrounding the weapon? It's certainly possible, but a subtler skill that we have already seen Boruto show off is his mastery of space-time ninjutsu. This was set up a while back, even before we saw him fight in the post-time skip. Code was theorizing that Boruto, now effectively being full Otsutsuki, could perfect the same kind of space-time ninjutsu that Sasuke used with the Rinnegan. And now, Boruto's able to enter Konoha, bypassing all their defenses and stuff to just show up. The sensory team first detected him in the air, right above Code's position. This really makes it look like he's gotten space-time ninjutsu down. It would also explain why Code had so much trouble trying to find Boruto over these last few years. The final member of Kara can travel pretty fast via his claw marks. Both true space-time ninjutsu, Boruto and Sasuke could be far more evasive. Code needs to plant a claw mark to travel to it, while his opponent could be anywhere. That said, however, all this assumes Boruto is as good at using space-time ninjutsu as Sasuke was. He could be even better. Remember, Sasuke only had access to this power thanks to the Rinnegan. He could move almost anywhere, but that was about his upper limit. The power of a true Otsutsuki has already been shown to do more. Remember the battle against Kaguya at the end of Shippuden? She could superimpose other dimensions on her opponents, forcing them to fight in other realms. She could pull her enemies into other realms, separating them from their friends before anyone could react. These two main space-time techniques, Ameno Minaka and Yomotsu Hirasaka, are extremely powerful, and Sasuke's at least witnessed them in action. Boruto wouldn't have Kaguya's chakra reserves since she was empowered by the infinite Tsukuyomi during her fight against Team 7. And he probably hasn't had the time to master as many abilities. Still, he could be very close in power now to Naruto's final boss. But the path to reaching that peak may have been troublesome. Sasuke doesn't totally know how high-level Otsutsuki Jutsu, the still mysterious Shinjutsu, really works. He's just had to fight against them. But Boruto has access to someone who does. Momoshiki Otsutsuki would have easily been his best candidate as a teacher. He's already made it clear that he is familiar with a wide variety of Shinjutsu, providing it by identifying omnipotence prior to his full explanation. He's not someone Boruto would want to listen to, but he may not have an alternative. Momoshiki and Boruto were starting to grow oddly close prior to the time skip, especially after the Otsutsuki heir gave up his full resurrection to heal Boruto's body after the young ninja almost died. Since that moment turned Boruto's body into that of a full Otsutsuki, the pair aren't able to stay apart anymore. Boruto was even able to notice his passenger's future visions, much to the dead Otsutsuki's surprise. They hadn't actually started liking each other though. Both were still arguing over who should control Boruto's body, but things have clearly changed since then. After all, they spent years together. Prior to the time skip, Boruto was still in good spirits and proudly insisting that he's Uzumaki Boruto. But following his return to Konoha, Boruto seems different, colder. It's hard to write this off as just him being more mature. He wouldn't meet Sarada's gaze directly and just told her to help defend a village and promised to talk to her later. When he's talking to Code, he's oddly calm and intense, trying to talk his longtime enemy into giving up his pursuit because of what he knows about the Ten Tails. What caused him to be so different? While it hasn't been proven yet, a lot of fans are thinking Sasuke was killed during the time skip, either by Code or another villain. If so, Boruto would have been left with only one person to be able to teach him anything: Momoshiki. Listening to the Otsutsuki would be Boruto's last choice, but he's got to get stronger somehow, and he doesn't have a ton of options. Why would Momoshiki agree to teach Boruto anything? Well, what other option does he have right now? He's stuck with the kid and can't just force Boruto to relinquish his body. For that matter, he needs the kid to stay alive to survive himself. And now, Boruto's got the entire ninja world hunting him down. Taking control of Boruto's body to fight back personally would be the ideal solution, but that still requires his host's agreement. For now, it's in Momoshiki's best interest to give Boruto at least the basics of how to use Shinjutsu in order to defend himself against these overwhelming threats. And there's a lot to learn. For a start, he could probably give some hints on how to properly use the Jougan. Boruto's dojutsu is powerful, but so far, he's just had to figure out what it can do on his own. The Hyuga clan and Uchiha clan had generations to work out their abilities, passing that information down from parent to child with a bunch of perfected jutsu. Boruto doesn't have that kind of information, and when you think about how much power the Rinnegan and Byakugan grant their users, it's pretty clear that Boruto is not getting full use out of his eye just yet. Now, while Momoshiki didn't have the Jougan himself, the dojutsu is supposed to be one that comes from the Otsutsuki Clan. If anyone in the ninja world could provide Boruto with even a basic idea of advanced Jougan usage, how to perform them and what they can do, it would be Momoshiki. But what could that lead to? So far, all Boruto's really managed to use his eye for is seeing a target's internal chakra pathways. That could expand in a ton of ways. There's a potential to refine the Jougan to something like the Hyuga's gentle fist techniques, striking more accurately at the target's chakra system to weaken them. But that doesn't seem like enough for an ability that the Otsutsuki view as troublesome. What about it could give them a reason to worry? Well, Momoshiki's prophecy gives us a clue. Those blue eyes shall eventually take everything from you. Something about using the Jougan at its upper limit will devastate Boruto. Either activating its abilities will take a toll on his body, or what he sees is what's going to take everything away from him. It's kind of an abstract idea, but think about it. If you can see the whole universe, can you still make out the things that you used to care about? Total vision, total understanding changes people. Still, the Jougan is only a part of Boruto's potential to grow. Thanks to his transformation, he's an Otsutsuki now, and he may have access to more abilities than anyone thinks, including some powers Sasuke used to have but has lost thanks to Momoshiki. There is a strong similarity between Rinnegan techniques and those the Otsutsuki display natively. We went over the space-time ninjutsu possibility earlier, but this could go much deeper. Ishiki Otsutsuki doesn't have the Rinnegan, but the black rods he was able to manifest with the Shinjutsu are very similar to the black receiver rods that Pain used to use. How could someone without the telltale eye use the abilities of the paths? While we don't know for sure how Ishiki's abilities worked, we have enough information to make a solid working theory. The Rinnegan, Sharingan, and Byakugan have all been linked to the Otsutsuki at this point. All three ocular powers originate from the Otsutsuki, passed down by those with blood ties to Kaguya and her offspring. If this is accurate, pretty much any Rinnegan technique could be accomplished with Shinjutsu, the divine miracles acting as an alternate path to access these same abilities. Think of the eyes as akin to weapons, something that helps the Otsutsuki manifest these abilities but are not strictly needed for them. This is the most likely way Boruto could potentially get around the lack of a Sharingan and access the SUSANOO anyway. Even if he can't manifest the original version, it's likely there's a Shinjutsu technique that could give him some kind of comparable ability. Call it a divine SUSANOO, if you will. Something that would allow an Otsutsuki to fight a gigantic monster on their own terms. In addition to that, pretty much any Shinjutsu one of the Otsutsuki used in the past, Boruto could have learned given the time he's had to train. Just like ninjutsu, they're formalized techniques that other members of the clan can learn. There's a lot of potential variety and strength to be found in embracing his Otsutsuki side. But there's one little problem holding Boruto back from that absolute high point. Actually, that's a lie. There's three issues here, and they're all pretty bad. First up, the biggest and most obvious one. It's not clear what effect learning and using Shinjutsu may have on Boruto's body. Momoshiki may have been denied full resurrection thanks to that last 18% of data, but utilizing the Otsutsuki clan's unique abilities might empower his soul further, risking Boruto losing control over his body. Unlike all the other Otsutsuki fighters we've witnessed, Boruto never ate a chakra fruit to enhance his strength. While his power is above human norms, performing more complex or demanding Shinjutsu would be tough for him. He probably wouldn't be able to use Shinjutsu as often or as freely as other Otsutsuki, at least for now. The other issue comes from Momoshiki himself. Unlike Sasuke, who we know was a prodigy by ninja standards, it's hard to tell how knowledgeable Momoshiki is or how much experience he really has relative to the rest of his clan. Every Otsutsuki we've met boasts about their strength, acting like they're gods who can do whatever they want. If Amato is right, even Kaguya herself was considered low-ranking by Otsutsuki standards, just a minor member of the clan who is supposed to be a sacrifice to the Ten Tails. Perhaps Momoshiki knows his stuff and would be a great Shinjutsu teacher. Maybe he's just being his usual arrogant, boastful self, and higher-ranking members of the clan would be able to humble him. It's honestly impossible to tell. Either way though, he's a valuable information source and could have possibly helped push Boruto's development further. No one else active in the ninja world right now has the potential to learn Shinjutsu directly from the Otsutsuki. But all this might not be giving Boruto himself enough credit. The young lord isn't just some mindless sponge soaking up some other people's techniques and ideology. His whole arc is based on not being that dutiful heir, defying his father, then Momoshiki, then the entire world. Boruto always chooses his own path. So what if he developed a new technique entirely on his own? It's quite rare to see ninjas develop truly unique ninjutsu. Most of them take what was already established and customize it. That's how ninjutsu got started, with students of the Sage's Six Paths copying his lessons on manipulating chakra. Even he presumably learned those from Kaguya. Only a few prodigies have ever been shown to create something we know is unique. Most learn inherited techniques passed down through families over the years. Some modify existing jutsu, such as Naruto adding elemental chakra to the Rasengan to create the Rasen Shuriken. But creating something from scratch is quite rare. The one real example we have of the process comes from Minato, thanks to his development of the Rasengan. While he was inspired by facing enemy Jinchuriki in battle, the process was far from simple. Even for a skilled shinobi like Minato, getting the jutsu right was a frustrating challenge that took him time to work out. Jiraiya's insight about the spiral helped set him on the right path. But we know that ultimately, perfecting the Rasengan took Minato years. Most shinobi don't have the time or dedication to do something like that, instead dedicating themselves to mastering existing jutsu. But Boruto has had years too. He probably hasn't had the opportunity to do much else on the run besides training. And he's not quite like either of his teachers. Sasuke has the perspective of a ninja, Momoshiki is an Otsutsuki, but now Boruto is both. He's got good reasons to try and work out a special move all on his own. And here's where we get to see the full potential of Boruto's development over the time skip. He has the knowledge of Sasuke to draw upon. He's got the karma abilities of his body's transformation. And he's got the determination to remain his own person. He's probably picked up a few things from both Momoshiki and Sasuke, but if Boruto's got a big show-stopping new move, it'll be something he created all on his own. Even before the Uzuhiko, he already managed to take something existing and make it his own, thanks to the creation of the Vanishing Rasengan. This would be the next step. What would a Boruto original jutsu even look like? Well, it's hard to speculate. If it's just a version of something we've seen before, it wouldn't be truly original. However, if you want a rough idea of what it could be like, the best example from what we've seen is probably Amaterasu, a versatile ability tailored for his needs in combat that's tough for his enemies to deal with. The other thing giving us a possible hint about a new move is the Rasengan Uzuhiko. Boruto designed his new fighting style for rapid movement. If he's got an original jutsu of his own, it'll play into that. The only question is how. Would he focus on trying to create an overwhelming single attack, something that focuses on strength over speed as an alternative method of fighting? Or would he try to create something that takes advantage of his growing mobility, like a move that has to start from above his opponent, or one that allows him to launch a bunch of smaller attacks very quickly? Either way, this idea of Boruto developing an original jutsu gives us a hint at his final fate. Quote, "The crafting of abilities is a feat permitted only to gods." That's what Amato said when the subject of Otsutsuki powers came up. Even he, a great scientist with access to a bunch of tools, could not create a new Shinjutsu. He just ended up modifying an existing template to give Ada her version of omnipotence. Even most Otsutsuki don't have a need to forge a new path like this. They just follow their ancestor Shibai Otsutsuki's path towards divinity, consume chakra fruit, and get stronger. That's what will make them gods. How many of them have ever needed to innovate, to use their power in a new way, to push themselves? If Boruto's managed to do just that during the time skip, does that make him something close to divine? Imagine someone with Minato's creativity and dedication being handed the power of an Otsutsuki. Instead of following anyone's path, Boruto could start blazing his own, using hard work and dedication to ascend in the same way the ancient god did through stealing chakra fruit. The time skip has been Boruto's first big step towards the path of his final fate. A lot of people think that he's more Sasuke's heir than Naruto's. Instead, he might be the one to take the title given to Hashirama Senju and make it literal. All hail Boruto Uzumaki, the god of shinobi. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the Boruto content. Always remember to let us know what you like to see in the comments, along with what you don't like to see. As always, I'm Sliceable Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.